Minister at the Department for exiting the EU. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So the debate is going to get underway today about Theresa May's withdrawal agreement. Do you agree with Richard Tice that effectively we are just heading for a no deal because it doesn't look like the Prime Minister is going to get her deal through in the meaningful vote this time next week?
No, I think what we have before us is a deal that many people said would be impossible, where the EU is offering us a free trade deal better than they've offered to any other third country outside the EU, where we are delivering on our commitment to no hard border in the island of Ireland, and where we are taking control of our money, our borders and our laws. I think this is a deal in the national interest, and I think when MPs debate it and discuss it in detail, they need to think about their constituencies, the prosperity of the people that they represent, and I think at the end of the day they will want to back this deal.
Do you know what everybody is talking about is the backstop, suggestions that this deal we're getting could see us in that backstop forevermore. That's the major problem that a lot of MPs have with Theresa May's deal that they'll be talking about today in the House of Commons.
And I think that clearly there are concerns about the backstop, and I think it's clear. And what
are they valid concerns?
What the Attorney General made clear yesterday is that the backstop is comfortable for neither side, neither the UK nor the EU, and that therefore it's in the best interests of both parties to avoid it coming into force. I agree with that, and I think it's clear in the terms of the future declaration that there are alternatives to the backstop that we can put in place to avoid it ever coming into force. The best one of those is to actually make sure that the deal, the future relationship between the UK and the EU, is in place by December 2020. If we can do that, we can ensure actually that the backstop never needs to be used at all.
And you're being held in contempt of Parliament today. That's being debated because you refused to publish the full legal advice behind the Prime Minister's deal. Why won't you just publish it? Because this is just frustrating the process and delaying everything. You're having to go through all of this morning before we can get down to the business of the deal itself. Why not just publish it?
So what the government did yesterday was to publish very detailed legal position on the withdrawal agreement, to set that all out in detail on paper for MPs to read and furthermore to make the Attorney General available to answer questions for more than 2 hours in Parliament. That's something that hasn't happened since the 1980s. I think the Attorney General was very frank and open in answering questions about the legal advice, but he also made clear that his legal advice to Cabinet is privileged. It is information that has to be in the context of an ongoing negotiation, as it was at the time, and that therefore there is some content of that may not be in the national interest to publish. I think it's vital that ministers respect their duty towards the national interest, whilst also
respecting Parliament. What could be more in the national interest than letting the people who voted for Brexit know all the details?
And that's exactly what we did with the document that we published yesterday. We've published the withdrawal agreement in full, we've published the political declaration, we've published a legal analysis of the withdrawal agreement.
In full. If you're taking legal advice on behalf of the people of the UK, surely they should be in possession of all the facts.
It's a very well-established principle that when government takes advice, and when Cabinet takes advice in particular, it does so on a confidential basis, and that advice needs to be able to be frank in the context of a negotiation. Of course, in the context of a negotiation, there is some information which it's not sensible to put into public domain and to telegraph to the other side. And actually, Keir Starmer recognised this during the debate.
What happens if you lose this today? What happens if you lose this today? Are you going to publish the full legal advice?
I don't think the government is going to lose this today, because I think at the end of the day MPs on all sides will recognise, as Keir Starmer did actually during the debate, that there is some information that has to be protected. And I think what we saw was a classic parliamentary trick from Labour, where during the course of the debate Keir made all sorts of concessions, said all sorts of things wouldn't have to be published,
I'll ask
at the end he retracted it all.
What happens if you do lose this? You're saying you don't think you will.
Well, I think what the government has...
If you do lose this, will you publish this at legal advice in full?
What the government has made clear is if a motion were carried, we believe that the appropriate way forward would be for the Committee on Privileges to have a look at the whole issue of contempt and whether that was appropriate. But to be clear, I don't think there has been any contempt. We've been in Parliament answering questions, being very frank with MPs throughout the process.
It's not your opinion that counts, it's the debate that counts today. So if you do lose this, will you publish that legal advice in full?
The Attorney General was absolutely clear that publishing the full legal advice that he gave to Cabinet would not be in the national interest. He has a responsibility under the Ministerial Code to keep that information confidential. But what we have published is full legal analysis of the withdrawal agreement, and I think that is what Parliament needs.